All right. Making sure all is working. Making sure that all is working. Hello, everybody. Hello, hello. Hope you're all doing well. It is time to continue our reading of Monster Club. Good to have you all here for it. I am Raven. Welcome back to the Raven Reads stream, or Raven's writing room, whatever you want to call it. And I am very excited to continue Monster Club today. For those of you who don't know, Monster Club is a book that I wrote a long time ago. Very old book, back in the early 2000 teens, if you will. And I'm hoping to get through a little bit more today, but I'm honestly kind of tired, so I don't know how far I'm going to get. I know that the stream says to chapter 33, but I don't know if we'll make it that far. We will try. I'm going to try to at least get to chapter 31 if I can. So for those who don't remember where we left off, essentially the club is coming back from the beach after the disaster that happened with Michelle, and they picked up a little hitchhiking child witch named Annie, and at the same time found out that she was on the run from the Dawnbringers, a group of monster hunters, and Asher's own father, a vampire named Drake. They've been taking a bus to get home, and they are just now starting to come back home, but there's an ugly truth awaiting them at home, and they are not happy about it. But it gets worse, and here's where it gets worse. And I do want to say this now, because there's going to be a lot of people who notice this. There is a name that is brought up here, and the name will sound familiar to all of you who know the game Red Dead Redemption 2. The name is Arthur Morgan, and there is a character in this chapter named Arthur Morgan. Now, before any of you think that I stole this character, this chapter was written in 2015. This chapter was written in 2015, and Red Dead Redemption came out in 2018. So this is 3 years before Red Dead Redemption 2 came out. Arthur Morgan was not a thing yet in Red Dead Redemption 2. That was not a thing. So no one come at me and say, hey, why'd you steal Arthur Morgan's name for this chapter? That was not my goal. That was not the intention. So please don't come at me saying, hey, what gives? I find that what happens quite a lot is a lot of people like to steal my ideas and then take them for themselves. So what I like to think happened was during the production of Red Dead Redemption 2, they just stole his name that I put in this book and decided to name him Arthur Morgan. All right, so let's not waste any more time. Let's get right into chapter 29. I think everybody who wants to watch has shown up by now. So let's get to it. All right, so chapter 29, written June 3rd, 2015. The whole day passed by in peace, as if nothing had or would happen. Abraham occasionally would look back at the club behind him, checking to make sure everyone was okay. Ashley was still asleep under the umbrella, her body tanned from the sun despite her efforts. Tamil sat beside Katie, who was reading a magazine to him that she'd taken from the gas station, and though it was a woman's clothing magazine, he seemed attentive, as if someone giving him attention was enough. Calypso sat with Annie, who was helping her fill water bottles so that everyone would have something to drink. Sarah, unable to fit into a bus seat, just sat in the far back of the bus, watching cars pass by and humming to herself some strange song that Abraham had never heard before. Michelle sat behind Abraham with her hand on the driver's seat and watching his progress. The night was falling, and her eyes were more keen than Abraham's. She could see and hear everything that they needed to a lot better than he could. "Take the next right. We should end up on a dirt road, and that'll lead us home," she whispered. Abraham complied and turned, leading them off the paved road and onto a dirt pathway. It was like he'd driven onto the road less traveled, as the top of the bus kept getting scraped by low-hanging tree limbs, and the ground was soft from rained-on mud. The bus moved slowly through the forest until, at last, the familiar light of a house was up ahead. It was the cottage. It was their home at last, and as they drew closer, Annie ran to the front of the bus and looked out the window. "That's your home?" she asked. "Yes, it is," Sarah giggled from the back. "And guys, it feels so good to be home, right?" Everyone nodded their response, except for Tamil, who had a very serious look on his blank face. He was gripping the scene in front of him in a fearful manner. Something was troubling the young mummy, and Abraham could see it. "Hey, what's wrong, man?" Abraham asked. "Something very wrong," he said. I feel something is wrong." "Yeah," Asher said, sitting up and throwing the umbrella aside. With the sun down, he could become himself again. "I feel it too. Everyone get to the back of the bus. We're going to approach this cautiously. There was a hush that fell over the group. Asher jumped off the bus first and helped everyone down as well. And as Abraham looked at the cottage, everything did look normal, but slowly a chill fell over his spine. Indeed, he understood what Tamil meant. There was something not right about the air. Something was out of place, like the dripping faucet in the bathroom or the slight chip in the pan on the wall. Just something small that everyone could just barely notice. What do you suppose... Hush! Asher whispered. He drew his pistol and loaded it. Everyone, stay behind me, but keep some distance. If I yell run, all of you get out of the house. Everyone nodded wordlessly to his command. Asher returned the house silently, and with each Asher entered the house silently, and with each stealthy move that Abraham had to check once or twice to make sure he still had eyes on him. The house seemed in one piece. Everything seemed nice and tidy and in its place. Solomon must have cleaned up a bit. As they made their way through the entry hall, they came to the den, and there stood Solomon, facing the back door with his back to them. Asher held out his hand for everyone to stay back as he moved closer to the ghostly figure that was his old friend. Hey, Solomon. Solomon, you okay?
Asher.
Solomon spun around to see Asher behind him, but Abraham felt his heart stop cold when he saw the look of fear on his face. Old man, what happened? Asher demanded.
Get out of here, Asher. Run while you still...
There was an explosion, the sound of a gunshot. Solomon let out a scream and crashed to the ground as something heavy struck him. As he hit the ground, he vanished in a wisp of smoke. Asher leapt away in horror and saw salt splattered along the grounds. Salt rounds, Asher cried. That's right, bloodsucker. The entire club turned their heads to the kitchen door, where out walked a man they'd never seen and looked like something straight out of a Halloween dress-up. He wore a grungy and dirty coat with a long-brimmed hat. A scraggly beard covered most of his face, and he had the coldest blue eyes you'd ever seen. In his gloved hand was a pistol that was aimed where Solomon had been. In his other hand, he held a piece of paper with a nail in his finger. There was a crossbow on his back, a rifle, a small sword, and about 5 different knives on a belt. He stank of salt and some kind of blood. Were there bloodstains on his coat? Hunter, Asher demanded. You with the Dawnbringers? Once, the man scoffed. They lost their honor and their dignity by bringing in that vampire. That lapdog. They've forgotten what it means to hunt the filth of this world. I don't serve under weaklings. But that said, Tail and them gave me enough information on this little club, this cabal of yours. In particular, how to locate and kill you. As he spoke, he took the paper and nailed it to the door behind him. In the moment he did, Asher suddenly trembled. He held a hand to his heart and then fell to the ground, clutching the couch next to him. He looked exhausted, like the very air had been knocked from his lungs. He was weaker and sluggish. You son of a... Save your breath, vampire, because soon I'll be taking it out of you. Asher! Michelle ran forward to try to reach him, who was now struggling to even stand up. However, as she got close, there was a sudden flash of light. Michelle screamed and flew backwards, clutching her hand. What in the hell just... Spiritual barrier, the man explained. When I showed up here, I took the liberty of placing those barrier pages on each entrance and exit to this room. No monster can get in or out once it's set. Plus, any supernatural creature within the barrier can't get out, and they're stripped of their powers. In this room, only humans have the power. Michelle grimaced and tried to push against the invisible barrier, but was met with the exact same result. We can't get through! Asher! Michelle screamed. Abraham looked around and saw that every entrance and exit was covered by a paper similar to the one that the man had carried before. So this was some kind of barrier, and the pages all kept together Asher in and drained him of his strength. Who was this guy? He'd planned this all out to the letter, and how did he know where they were? How well prepared was this person? I'll kick your ass! Asher aimed his gun at the man and fired. He stepped out of the way moments before the trigger was pulled, and he kicked Asher in the teeth. Asher blocked with his forearm, but was strained to even do this. It was like his body weighed a ton. He was so sluggish and weak, it hurt to see him move like this. What kind of power did this barrier have over him? Asher again made a move to shoot, or to do at least to hold him off. But the man wrenched the gun from Asher's hand, struck him across the face, and kicked him to the wall. Calypso screamed. Michelle again ran at the barrier, but was blown backwards. Tamil shuddered in a corner, feeling powerless, as Sarah could only stand back and comfort Annie, who was now crying like a baby. She was scared, and with good reason. Katie was shaking with something. Was it rage or fear? It was honestly hard to tell, but whatever she was feeling, Abraham knew what he was feeling. Horror.
For the first time in a long time, Abraham felt true horror at the sight before him. But it wasn't a monster that was terrifying him, it was this man. What true irony to be scared of the man instead of the monster. The name's Morgan. Arthur Morgan. I'm the last face you shall see before you go, vampire. And when you're done, I'll deal with your friends as well. He explained to the groaning and bleeding Asher. He pulled his crossbow and loaded it with a silver-tipped arrow. Asher acted quickly and tried to charge him, but his speed was pitiful in this weakened state. Morgan dodged, pulled the bolt from his bow, and struck Asher in the chest with it. Asher roared in pain and fell back, blood seeping from his chest. He wasn't regenerating. He really had lost all his powers. He fell backwards and lay on his back, clutching his wound. It must have been some time since he'd been in such pain. Morgan got down on his knees and pulled out a blade. The blade was made of blessed silver. He raised it over his head and began to murmur under his breath a prayer. "He's gonna kill him!" Calypso screamed, trying to fight her way past Sarah and Katie, who was holding her back. "Michelle, you have to do something! I can't do a thing!" Michelle shouted back, when suddenly Abraham's eyes widened. But I can. Abraham ran with all his might at the doorway and passed clean through it. Morgan stopped his prayer and looked up in surprise. "What in the... Yeah, I'm a human!" Abraham then grabbed the nearest parchment and ripped it from the door frame. "But I'm part of this club!" Instantly, a calm hush fell over the room. It was like a veil had lifted. With the paper missing, the barrier was incomplete, and strength returned to Asher. "Damn you!" Morgan raised his dagger again and brought it down on Asher, but it was too late. Asher's body exploded into thrashing, screaming bats, lashing at Morgan and reassembling themselves into Asher's fully healed and very angry body. He was snarling furiously as he aimed his gun at Morgan's head. Michelle ran in after Abraham and stood behind Asher. Morgan dared not move as he was now staring down Asher and the others. Outnumbered, and without the help of the barrier, there was no prayer for him now. "It's over," Michelle shouted. "Give it up." "Not quite," Morgan replied. He grabbed a small pouch and threw it at Asher. It exploded in his face, and Asher screamed as a smelly powder struck him, powder that smelled strongly like garlic. "Asher!" Michelle and the others turned to Asher quickly as he fell over, growling and trying to rub the powder out of his face. As he did, Morgan took off running to the exit. "We should go after him," Katie cried. "He knows where we live, so he'll surely come back." "Never mind that!" Everyone turned around just in time to see Solomon reappear. The salt had only knocked him from the room for a brief period, but he was back and looking even more terrified than before. "No need to worry, Solomon," Asher said with a painful smile. "We took care of that hunting bastard. Morgan's running for the..." "That's not what I'm trying to warn you about! Get out of the house now! He's rigged bombs under the foundation! Get out!" The club barely had time to react. Most didn't even feel the sensation of the heat and the impact. The thunderous roar of an explosion filled their ears, their senses, and their bodies. Abraham felt himself knocked off his feet by a massive eruption of power, flame, and force. He could only make out brief glimpses of the others. Asher had his arms around Annie, was yanking her towards the door. Tamil was in Sarah and Katie's grip as they threw them to the other end of the house. Michelle and Calypso were caught in the sprint as wood and mortar shot around them like gunfire. The club was blasted off of their feet, into the air and out of the house. Soon all of Abraham's world turned black. He saw no more. His final thoughts before slipping into unconsciousness were as weak as his vision. What happened to my family? And that was chapter 29. All right. Hey, Gaming Raptor, glad you made it. Glad you made it. You didn't miss much. That was just the first chapter. Chapter 29. We're on 30 now. And to remind everyone, Arthur Morgan's name was not stolen from Red Dead Redemption. Like I said, that chapter was written in 2015. Red Dead Redemption 2 came out 2018, so there is no correlation unless they stole the name from me. All right. Chapter 30, June 29th, 2015. Abraham. Abraham didn't wake up. His head was ringing and pounding like a drum. His body felt completely shattered. His arm didn't want to move. Did he even have ligaments anymore? Surely he was just a jumbled pile of pieces and body parts. Abraham, get up. Abraham felt something grabbing him and trying to lift him.
Don't move him, Katie. He's in critical condition. Damn it, where are the others?
Abraham could hear the voices. They sounded close and very worried. That was Katie and Calypso talking. There was no question. But how were they still alive? He remembered the explosion, the heat of the fire and the sheer impact of the bomb. The horrible smell of ash and smoke filled his lungs and he couldn't breathe. It hurts, Abraham moaned.
Don't try to move. You have a broken rib and a few major bruises all over your abdominals. I'm worried you might even have a concussion,
Katie said. The fog was lifting and Abraham was beginning to get his vision back. He could see, but the world was blurry and the glowing light of the fire was burning his eyes. He tried to lift his hands to his eyes, but even the thought of such an act hurt his aching body. Where are the others? Abraham coughed.
Well, we're looking for them, Calypso said. Asher's okay, and he's helping move debris. We found Sarah. She's unconscious, but she should be fine.
What about Tamil and Solomon, Michelle, Annie? Abraham asked, trying to sit up. He felt a pair of hands shove him down, and he cried out in pain. Ah!
We said don't move, you numbskull, Katie snapped. We're looking for them. You stay here and let Calypso treat you.
But where are they? They're in trouble. I have to help.
The best thing you can do is just rest.
I found Annie! Calypso, get over here! It was Asher's voice. Calypso leaped up.
I'm coming!
She wasted no time running to the voice. Abraham again tried to get up, but he was held down again by Katie.
You just stay put,
she growled. Abraham began to see a bit clearer and could make out Katie's face. She had 2 cuts on her face and on her lip. Her eyes were brimming with tears. Her hair was muddy and matted with blood. Her yellow serpentine eyes were large and scanning his injuries.
Katie, good. You didn't lose your memory,
she laughed sarcastically. She looked around to see if anyone was near, and then she leaned down close to Abraham's ear.
Thank you, she whispered.
What? He whispered back.
You saved us. All of us. You ran and ripped down that barrier just as Morgan set us up. If you hadn't done that, he'd have killed us all.
If I really saved us, then why do I feel so terrible? Abraham grumbled.
If you hadn't saved us, then none of us would be here at all. Learn to take some praise, why don't you?
She then planted a kiss on his cheek and smiled a little.
You tell anyone I did that, I will constrict you until all your ribs are broken.
Understood, Abraham smiled back, blushing. After a few minutes of searching and cleaning debris, Abraham finally managed to climb to his feet. Calypso wasn't pleased, but she knew they needed to find the others and didn't argue. Sarah had been found not far from the road, covered in dirt and pieces of the building. She too was okay, but one of her legs was broken, and she'd suffered a cut below her chest that was bleeding badly. Calypso was working fast to patch it up.
Abraham, could you find some bandages? I'm okay, Calypso, really, Sarah moaned. Just be still. We'll fix this.
Abraham began running around, looking through the remains of what was left of their house. Just a pile of wood, glass, and stone. The foundation was still intact at least, and 3 walls were still standing, but the front of the house was burning and smoldering, and the roof was all but gone. Abraham dug through the trash until he stumbled across some strange and very familiar bandages.
Tamil!
Abraham yanked away the stones to find Tamil's limp hand under the rubble. He grabbed it and pulled, and fell back in horror. The only thing that came out was Tamil's hand.
Gah!
Abraham cried, tears coming to his eyes.
Tamil! What happened?
Abraham, stop crying! Abraham looked down to see Tamil's head sitting by the rocks. His eye was black, his lip bloody, but he was fine otherwise.
Just got blown up. We'll sew body back together. How are you? I'm undead, Abraham, Tamil smiled. Broken body can be fixed. Rest is somewhere over there.
Tamil leaned his head back to the west, and Abraham set down his hand to go and find it. And sure enough, torn and tattered, but not gone, was the rest of Tamil's body.
I found it, and when Calypso was done with Sarah, Sarah!
Abraham leapt to his feet and began searching the trash again for bandages. He'd completely forgotten about Sarah's condition, and after a few minutes of looking, he found a small box of them. He hurried back to Sarah. His thoughts went back to the mangled body of Tamil, the cuts on Katie, the bruises and burns on Calypso. His family was suffering. The entire night was just a matter of searching for and finding their family and mending wounds. Sarah was back on her feet with some webbing wrapped around her leg like a splint. She was helping Calypso sew Tamil's body back together while Katie was tending to the still unconscious Annie. The little girl hadn't woken up yet, despite all of her vitals being okay from what Calypso said. For all they knew, she could have been merely sleeping. Asher was moving in and around the group searching for any sign of their missing leader, Michelle. Dawn was beginning to break. The fire had died down. The club was all sitting around the broken house, though Asher was not with them. He was searching around for Michelle and Solomon.
I can't believe this, Katie muttered. It's horrible, Calypso agreed. How could this have happened? It was that bastard Morgan, Katie shouted. If I ever see him, I'll... Katie, calm down. You're getting too excited. Just relax, Sarah urged her. Katie calmed herself again, but didn't stop snarling. And what about Michelle? Calypso whimpered. What if she... No, Sarah shouted. She's okay. She's okay. I promise she is. Nothing kill her, Tamil muttered darkly. She too stubborn to be killed that easy. I know she okay. She need be okay. Tamil was merely staring blankly ahead, unable to see any of the destruction, but it was clear he felt it. I can't lose family members again. I just can't. All of them had just lost the one place they called home, thanks to the hands of a radical monster slayer. To the hands of a human. And this fact only struck Abraham even harder. One of his kind had done this. Abraham clenched his teeth and his fists tightly. Abraham? Sarah looked over at him, sitting on the boulder near him. Are you all right? A human did this. A human like me. Abraham, I know what you're thinking, but Morgan and you are nothing alike, Sarah assured him. Just because you're human doesn't mean that all humans are like him. Katie's words were little comfort for the pain in Abraham's heart. It was little wonder why the club feared humans like they did, and it was no surprise now as to why Katie had hated Abraham so much when they first met. He was a human. To them, another bigot, another hateful creature. This not your fault. Everyone looked down at Annie, who was just now beginning to wake up. Her eyes were half closed, and she looked very sleepy. Her voice was hoarse, and she was speaking loudly as if her ears were ringing and she couldn't hear well. No, blame yourself, Abraham. But he was human like me, and he nearly killed us all. He took everything. Yes, and he would have done it too if it hadn't been for you who broke his barrier. Humans can cause a lot of destruction, but they can do good too, and you're the proof. We can't let the actions of one dictate our opinions of the whole. That voice. It couldn't be. They all spun around at the sound and looked to see Solomon. It was indeed their ghostly friend, but his body looked strange, like a television screen that was struggling to find a connection. His figure kept glitching and shaking. His eyes were filled with the saddest tears, but his smile was the most genuine happiness they'd ever seen on him. Everyone leapt up and hurried to him, though Annie stayed back, not sure who he was. Solomon! You're okay! Well, not entirely. Everyone paused and stared at Solomon as he shook his head. My connection to this house was all I had left, and I can feel my spirit slipping away. I don't have very long. No, Katie snapped. No, you can't go. You're like our father. You gave us this home. We'll rebuild it. You'll be all right. It's not so simple as that, Solomon muttered. Using new parts to fix this house will not bring me back because I'm tied to what it was. But don't be upset. I'm so happy for all of you. I was fortunate to know you for this part of my afterlife, and now I can rest in peace. I can move on, as it were. Solomon, don't say things like that, Sarah cried, hot tears rolling down her bloody cheeks. Tamil wasn't even facing them anymore, but only staring at the ground, unable to handle the sounds he was taking. You've got to stay. Normally, I might be worried. I might be worried for you all without me around to keep you in line. His laugh, though it was a laugh, sounded like a cough. But I'm not. I'm not worried anymore. I'm proud of you. You've all grown up. You don't fear humans the way you did, and I owe that to you, Abraham. He turned his eyes on Abraham, who was trying hard to fight the tears of guilt and depression. He bit his lip, choking back his frustration, trembling like a leaf in a storm. I didn't do anything, Abraham sniffed. You gave them hope, Abraham. You made them believe that they could exist in a human world.
You did more than anything I ever could. Thank you, Abraham. His eyes then turned to Annie, and he smiled. And is this a new friend? Annie stepped forward, holding out her torn black stuffed cat and her finger near her lip as if she wanted to suck her thumb. I'm Suyan, but everyone call me Annie. I'm a witch. A witch? Solomon asked, his body glitching again, but his smile seemed to last through it. Well, Annie, welcome to this very sad but still solid little family. From out of the bushes, there was a sound of rustling and thrashing, and then out came Asher, holding Michelle in his arms. She was bloody and bruised, and her hair was soaked in mud and blood. Asher was grimacing as he walked her back to the group. Is she? She's alive, Asher growled. Not looking good, though. Her breathing couldn't be any weaker. Asher, Michelle whispered, trying hard to sit up. Stop it! Your body's a mess. Would you stay still already? Asher ordered. Michelle, stubborn as ever, ignored him and tried to look through the bloody bruise that was her eye and see Solomon and the others. Is everyone accounted for? Yes, we're all here, Calypso cried, dropping down beside Michelle to treat her. Just don't talk right now. You'll be okay. You'll be... She broke down. She threw her arms around Michelle and cried desperately. Michelle winced in pain, but didn't stop. Abraham felt a slight relief knowing Michelle wasn't dead. But there was a loud cough and a shudder of cold air as Solomon once again began to disappear. Old man! Asher rushed forward, but Solomon held up his own hand to stop him. It's time. Oh, I'm proud of all of you. I don't have a single regret. He smiled widely. His body was blurring harsher. And soon it was becoming hard to see at all. Rebuild. Children, rebuild the club. Don't let your family die on this ruined land. Abraham made a movement as if to grab his hand, just to touch that lifeless, transparent hand. But just as he came close, he was gone. The chill of the air that Solomon carried anywhere he went was now missing from the world. And not one person breathed a word. The rising sun and the chirping birds set the tone of bitter tears that rolled down everyone's faces. Asher had to turn away as he slammed his fist into a nearby tree, leaving a large dent shaped like a fist. Michelle trembled on the ground, tears mixing with the blood on her cheeks, so it seemed she was crying tears of red. Katie slithered away to be alone, mourning his loss, while Tamil cried pathetically in the corner. The closest thing to a father he, or any of them, had, was now gone, and he felt like he was in the dark again. A light he'd been holding on to had been snuffed. Sarah held Annie close as the two cried together. While Annie did not cry as loudly or as passionately, her tears were no less real. Abraham, though, merely stared where Solomon had been moments before, as if expecting him to reappear and tell them that he would be okay, that it was all a joke, that his smiling face would welcome them home again. Just make it all one bad, terrible dream. Make it all a nightmare. But Solomon, their friend and family, was gone. Solomon, he whispered, his voice drowned by the cries of his family. I won't let it die, he sobbed. And that was chapter 30. In answer to your question, Imperator Penguin, I gave Katie a British accent for reading because, for one thing, I can't do a very good Indian accent. And for two, it's just a way to differentiate her from the other female characters. Now, excuse me while I grab some water. That's better. Okay. All right. Back at it. All right, we are on chapter 31.
written August 13th, 2015. Hold on, make sure I got it all right. All right, we're good. Here we go. Well, we can't just up and leave, Katie cried.
And we can't stay either, Asher argued. The two had been arguing for a while now.
Solomon was long gone, and everyone was still feeling the pain of his loss. The sun had been out, and then went down, and then came out again. No one really felt like moving, because the club all sat around the remains of their home, still trying to process the fact that it truly was gone. They were divided now about what to do. Should they stay, or should they go? This is our home, Asher, Katie argued.
What home?
Asher snapped.
You mean that pile of rock and wood?
Well, we can rebuild it.
With what tools and what supplies? I'm sorry, do you have a building degree? Asher argued, motioning to the land around him.
Well, we'll get the tools and supplies. We'll go and...
And what, Katie? We don't have jobs, we don't go to school, we don't own anything, we're monsters! Asher argued.
Stop it!
Michelle growled. Her voice was low and furious like a growling dog as she shoved Katie and Asher apart.
Do you hear what you're saying, Asher? We're not monsters. We built this club to prove to the world we aren't, so watch your mouth.
Asher stepped back and grumbled, but he nodded. Yeah, sorry.
Now, as for whether we stay or go, Michelle spoke up, causing all to turn and listen. Both of you have a point. Katie is right. This is our house. It's where we all came together and where we all belong, but Asher is right too. We can't use this place anymore as a home. It's too destroyed, and it'll take supplies and equipment that we simply don't have to rebuild it. Well, what do you propose we do? Sarah asked. We'll leave, Michelle announced. We'll go and stay somewhere else, but we will come back and, at the very least, remember this place. We'll find a contractor if we have to, but we're not going to let what this place was pass into memory.
No one spoke, but a silent nod went up around the club. Everyone agreed. There were no disagreements or misgivings, and if there were any, they were not heard or spoken.
So what now?
Calypso whispered, not lifting her head up to gaze upon the stubborn glare that Michelle was giving them all.
Get what you can back onto the bus, if you took anything off. Get any personal belongings you can find from the rubble. We leave at dawn.
It didn't take them too long to pack, because there was little left to scavenge or find. Most of their belongings were either still on the bus from where they'd come from their trip to the beach, or there were just a few tattered remains of their old lives that they had to pick up. However, despite being packed in less than half an hour, no one was ready to leave. Each of the club merely stared and walked around as if caught in a trance. Asher walked in and out of the rubble, growling and baring his fangs, mumbling about being too slow or pathetic. Michelle said no words, and while her eyes shed no tears, pain was etched upon her like a chalkboard. Her hair was a mess, and more than once she'd stop and rub her eyes. Was she trying to wake up from a nightmare she thought she was having? Calypso stood at the shoreline of the lake and watched the water fill with debris and trash from the explosion. It was dark and murky, and her hair kept blowing against her shoulders and neck. Ripples from teardrops stained the dirt as her feet and kept hitting the water like rain. Tamil, though, he never stopped walking. He moved along the edge of where the house once was with his arms outstretched, as if longing to clutch the walls that stood there. A sense of familiarity or understanding. And when he would find something, his face would light up and he would feel that hunk of wall or furniture until he couldn't touch it anymore. And when he found the destroyed and broken pieces, his face would sink like a stone in water. The home he knew and had been familiar with, even in his dark world, was gone. Sarah wasn't anywhere near the house. She built a small web near the woods on the west side of the destruction. It was high off the ground as she looked out at the land around her. The light patches of smoke that rose up like eels rising from the earth and reaching to the sky. She would look at them, then to the sky, then hide her face again. Katie merely coiled under a tree, hugging herself in agony. She coughed several times, but it was not from the smoke or suffocation, but rather just from crying too much. This house. Abraham looked down at Annie, who was sitting in his lap. He hadn't moved her from the steps of the brick that once led up to the front door of the house. Annie had been hugging her stuffed cat to her chest and staring off into space for a long time.
This place means a lot to you,
Annie whispered. Yeah. We're all just trying to cope, I guess.
You're not crying like them, though. Did you not like the house?
Annie asked. No, it's not like that, Abraham replied, placing a hand on her head. I love this house, but I guess it's just something I'm used to by now.
Used to?
Losing homes, I mean. I've gone from home to home and family to family, and each time it's the same. Bad luck follows me like my own shadow. It just sticks to my feet. And now I've messed up the only really amazing family I've ever had. Annie just looked up at Abraham, and she saw that while he wasn't bawling his eyes out the way that the others were, his eyes were still swimming with tears and agony.
I understand, Annie responded. I moved home to home, too. No one wanted me around.
Well, we want you around, Annie, I promise.
No promise, Annie growled. Promise hurt.
Abraham didn't know how to respond to that. He merely sat with her, rubbing her head. At long last, the sun was beginning to climb into the sky, and Michelle stepped out.
All right. Time to go, everyone.
Everyone dragged their feet as they moved to the bus. It was their only means of transportation at this point to go anywhere. The gang packed up and all got on board as Abraham took the driver's seat. Want to go to the interstate? Abraham asked.
No. We stole this bus, so it's likely it's being searched for. We'll stick to the highways and off-road maps for the time being, Michelle told him.
Abraham agreed and fired up the bus. The gang remained silent for a long time as the bus drove down the road.
Before it gets too far, let's stop at a grocery store for some supplies.
Store's almost closed. It's still closed, though. It's still too early, Asher argued.
Yeah, but Abby usually does the opening. She might be willing to let us slip inside if she understands the circumstances. Abby? Annie asked. A friend of ours who works at the store, Calypso spoke up. I do hope she's there. I'd rather not have to pull any more stunts tonight. Abby has never met the likes of us before, Katie argued. She's fine around you normal-looking members like Abraham and Michelle, but what about when she gets a load of me and Sarah?
The group all looked at each other with worried expressions and concern. And that was a certain truly fear that Katie had brought up to light. Abby certainly wouldn't be of any help if she was scared of them.
We'll make it work, Michelle responded. Sure, she's never met you, but that doesn't mean too much considering she knows us.
As they drew closer to the grocery store, Michelle put her hand on Abraham's shoulder, squeezing it.
Park on the side of the road here. We'll go the rest of the way on foot.
With a nod, Abraham parked the bus and opened the doors. Michelle stepped off first and was followed by Asher. All right, who else wants to come? Asher called.
I'll come,
Sarah replied, hurrying out of the bus.
I mean Abby, too,
Annie called, running to the doorway. In that case, I better come along to keep an eye on Annie, Abraham offered.
Gosh, what are you, her big brother? Michelle teased.
Shut it.
All right, this group is big enough. The rest of you wait here and stay out of sight, Michelle ordered.
The entire group nodded, and as they walked into the parking lot, Michelle shot a cautious look up at the moon. It was only a half moon, but not a full one. Calm down. The full moon isn't for a few weeks. Why so jumpy?
I don't know. Just a bad feeling. Like something's going to go very wrong.
You mean like it hasn't already?
You know what I mean, Asher.
It seems to happen a lot, though.
Hey, guys, stop with the negative talk, Sarah offered. Let's try looking on the optimistic.
Asher turned and gave her a cold stare. It wasn't angry, just very matter of fact. Sarah, after losing Solomon, I'm not sure if there even is a bright side at this point. Sarah wanted to answer him, but thought better of it and just hung her head a little. She said nothing and followed in silence. Abraham tried to smile kindly and touch Sarah's hand gently, causing her to turn and face him. Hey, keep your chin up, Sarah. Things just look bad right now, you know? We'll bring them all around, Abraham whispered encouragingly. He couldn't stand to see her like this. Sarah was the heart of the club, the happiness. No matter how bad things got, Sarah was always there to brighten everyone up. If she was this low, the club would never start to feel the depression even longer. If Abraham was to keep his promise and hold this club together, he had to make sure that didn't happen. Annie was holding his hand and smiling up at Sarah, too.
Everything going to be fine, Annie smiled.
Not necessarily. Abraham suddenly came to a stop as Asher glared at the store. Something's wrong. The store's still closed, but I sensed something nearby.
The Dawnbringers?
Sarah gasped.
Drake? Annie cried.
No. I'm going to look around. You all stay put. Asher took off into the store to find the source of the problem, while Abraham remained behind with Annie and Sarah.
What do you think Asher senses? I don't know, Michelle growled, looking around, but I do think Asher is wrong here. I smell something. Funny, though, it smells like a bear. A bear? Annie asked. You know what a bear is, right? Sarah laughed, leaning down to Annie. It's a really big, hairy animal. Yeah, I know what it is. I just not know there were any here. Well, that's the thing. There shouldn't be, Michelle muttered. Michelle, look out!
No sooner had Sarah screamed it than Michelle turned to see a hulking monster rushing towards her. The bear was enormous, easily twice her height and 3 times her weight. With dark brown fur like a grizzly, the beast roared furiously and swung down with its massive paw to crush Michelle. Michelle leapt aside just in time as Abraham grabbed Annie and yanked her out of harm's way. The bear didn't seem interested in them, however, and turned its face towards Michelle.
What the hell? Why's a bear here?
Get out of there! Abraham roared. Asher, get over here! Michelle pulled herself together and readied herself, snarling at the bear as it reared up at her. Matzo! The entire group all froze in shock. The bear had spoken. It spoke with a low and furious growling voice, but it had spoken. It roared again and slammed its body into the stunned Michelle.
You can talk! You're no ordinary yogi, are you?
Michelle snapped, kicking the bear away from her with her immense strength. The bear rolled with it and then began to sink and lose its fur. As it began to shrink, it took on a more human appearance, as if merely shedding a skin, until what stood in its place was a young man wearing a coat and torn jeans. He had long, dirty brown hair like a bear, and his eyes were the same vicious, cold color. His teeth were bared, his fingernails sharp like claws. His skin was dark and tan, and his face was chiseled to make him look almost like a Native American. Who was this stranger who could somehow become a bear?
So that's it, Sarah cried. A skinwalker. A skin what? Navajo thing. Or they're skinwalkers. Men or women who've learned to transform themselves into an animal of their choosing. Kind of like Michelle, but the difference is that Michelle only turns into a wolf on the full moon. But skinwalkers can transform whenever they want to. Well, a certain amount of the time anyway. I didn't think they were real, though, Sarah explained.
Die! The man roared, running for Michelle again. Michelle readied herself to fight. Abraham watched the two clash and felt his heart tear in two. He was watching it happen again. It was going to happen all over again. He was watching one of his friends fight for her life. His family was fighting, and he could only stand back and watch. I'm going to help her, Abraham shouted.
I'm coming too, Sarah hissed,
taking Abraham's hand and pulling him with her. Annie ran alongside as well.
I don't know what to do, but I'll do it,
Annie screamed. Her passion was there, even if she was a little lost. Abraham didn't know what he would do either. Without Asher or Michelle's wolf form, what chance did they have against this skinwalker, whatever it was? But whatever that was the case, it didn't matter. He didn't know why this bear man wanted to kill Michelle, and he didn't know if they even knew each other. But there was one thing he knew beyond a shadow of a doubt. He had to fight. He couldn't watch another member of his family die. Not this time. He would hold this club together, no matter what. And that was chapter 31. All right, we are on to chapter 32. This was written August 31st, 2015. Stop! Abraham, Sarah, and Annie were all thrown away by a tremendous force, knocking them away. Abraham managed to see a swarm of bats burst from around the corner of the store and crash into the bear man. With a horrified roar, the skinwalker began attempting to swat at the bats, but he might as well have tried to strike down mist. The boy leaned back, and the bats reformed to create an incredibly pissed off Asher. Nightwalker, the boy hissed. Vampire. Who the hell are you? Asher snarled. To Abraham's shock, the skinwalker didn't seem intimidated by Asher. In fact, he just smirked. It seems the wolf has befriended a bat, he muttered. Tell me who the hell you are, Asher roared, pulling his gun, or I'll put 2 silver bullets in your chest. This time the skinwalker flinched and glared at the gun. How do you have silver bullets? You're bluffing. You want to take that bet? Go ahead. Just know I'm not gonna miss, Asher snarled. Abraham looked at Sarah in confusion. Why would silver bullets make a difference? Sarah noticed his look and frowned. Since skinwalkers are cousins to werewolves, they can't be killed by anything other than silver, Sarah explained. After a few moments of standing still and staring at each other, the skinwalker boy lowered into a crouching stance as if to launch himself at Asher. He was going to call the bluff. The action was about to get heated again, and there was nothing any of them could do now. Asher and this bear were about to go at it.
Mato, stop it!
What the hell? A figure leapt down from the top of the store. She was short, but her appearance was clearly that of a girl, except there was a key characteristic that threw them all off. From her shoulders sprouted 2 enormous wings that were brown and white like a hawk's. Her wild hair was feathery and the exact same color. Not only that, but her legs were yellow, scaled like talons.
A harpy? Michelle gasped. I've never seen a real harpy before.
The harpy stood between Asher and the skinwalker and rounded on him.
Mato, what the hell is wrong with you?
She shouted. Shut up, Tori, Mato growled. This doesn't concern you.
We were just here to find food, and you suddenly act all pissed off and take off running. And you call me a bird brain?
It's a territorial thing, Mato grumbled, blushing a bit as her words were making him realize just how foolish he'd been.
All right, you know what? I've had enough of this.
All eyes turned from Tori and Mato to Michelle, who had stepped forward with her hands on her hips and a scowl on her face.
I, for one, want answers here. Why was I attacked? Who the hell are you two, and what are you doing here?
Mato glared a moment, but then put his hands in his pockets and looked away. Tori rolled her eyes, and it was in that moment that Abraham took notice of her deep yellow eyes. They were really just like a hawk's.
My name is Tori, and this is Mato. We'd come here to get food for our own group when suddenly Nature Boy here went off the deep end.
Bear instincts, he muttered. I smelled a wolf. My instincts to defend my territory kick in. Mato growled. Abraham guessed that was as close to a real apology as they were going to get, but that didn't matter too much to Michelle, whose eyes went wide at the prospect of their group.
Wait, you said you were a group. You mean other non-humans. So you're like us.
Like you? Wait, so you're really all in a group? You and the vampire?
Us too,
Abraham shouted. Mato turned and seemed to suddenly notice Abraham, Sarah, and Annie. Sarah gave a friendly wave, and Annie hid a little behind Abraham's legs, not sure whether she wanted to run or not.
We call ourselves the Monster Club, Sarah explained. There are others. There's a mummy named Tamil and... Sarah!
Michelle barked, silencing her. Sarah fell silent and nodded. It seemed Michelle didn't want these strangers knowing more than they did. Tori was grinning and hanging on every word, but Mato hadn't taken his glaring gaze off Abraham. You're a human, he noted. Yeah, Abraham replied. I'm Abraham. Nice to meet you. Mato spat and made an aggressive snarl towards him, making Asher step between him and Abraham. Back off, Asher growled. You're defending it, Mato hissed. What the hell is wrong with you?
Abraham is a part of our family,
Sarah said defensively, wrapping her arms around Abraham from behind, making Abraham blush slightly. Annie nodded her agreement, but didn't come out from hiding. And what about the little one? Is she human? Mato demanded. She's a witch, Abraham answered. Mato's sneer only grew more menacing. Are you all fools? You shelter witches and humans? Don't you know what their kind does to us?
Mato!
Tori stepped forward and placed a hand on his shoulder as if to comfort him, but Mato shrugged her off and shook his head. Fools! You're a pack of fools! He growled, storming away, leaving Tori behind with the bewildered and pissed Monster Club.
I'm sorry about that. Mato can be a bit of a...
Bastard, Asher offered.
Jerk, Michelle sighed. Meanie, Annie questioned. Yeah, all of those, Tori groaned. But, that being said, I can't help but understand where he's coming from. Why did you have a human and a witch with you? Why should we be discriminating against anyone just because of what they are? Michelle asked. That makes us no different than the others who persecute us. Well, but... Tori blinked a few times as if trying to think her way through that logic. She shook her head a few times. Sorry, I'm not good at thinking about stuff. That's for Naomi and Mato to do.
Tori! We need to get moving, Mato shouted.
Hold on, Mato, just a sec,
she shouted back. She then turned back to the Monster Club and kicked her talons into the dirt a bit as if she was trying to think of the right thing to say.
Look, regardless of what we agree or disagree on, what Mato did was wrong, and I want to make it up to you. Is there anything I can do?
I think we're fine, Asher growled, clearly not wanting anything more to do with the two of them. Actually, Abraham spoke up, stepping forward, would you know of any good places for us to stay? Our home was destroyed the other night, and we're without a home.
Your what? Tori cried. Oh, that's terrible. What happened? We'd rather not discuss it, Michelle grumbled. Well, I think we can let you stay with us, at least for a night, Tori grumbled. If you want, you can follow us to our home. I don't know about that. I don't think Happy over there will be too on board with the idea. Oh, Mato? Well... Okay, no, he probably won't like it, but he's not the one you should worry about. Naomi's our leader. She'll have to decide, but I'll bet she'll be nice and let you stay. She's not quite as mean as Mato can be.
Asher and Michelle exchanged looks as if wondering what to do. There was no question that they had nowhere to stay and they needed shelter. It would suck to keep scaring people out of gas stations and camping in the bus. If they could find a home, even if just for a little bit, it would help. All right, how far is this place? Asher asked. You have a means to travel? If you use that, I'll fly and you can follow me. Just try not to fall too far behind. I'm the fastest flyer you'll ever see, she winked. Well, at least we know you're real humble about it, Asher muttered. Asher and Michelle escorted Sarah, Annie, and Abraham back to the bus, while Tori followed close behind to see where their bus was. Mato had elected to go on ahead and meet them at the location, after giving Tori a few criticisms and very hateful remarks for inviting them to stay at their hideout. When they refound the bus, Tori stopped and folded her arms. So who's driving this? I am, Abraham answered. She looked back at him and then pointed to the moon overhead. I'll be flying ahead of you. Try to keep an eye on me against the backdrop of the moon, but you have to go quick, because sun's coming up and the moon's getting harder to see, all right? Abraham nodded, then had an idea. Hey, Tamil, got any flashlights in the bag? Oh, yes, I have them. Hold still. Abraham flushed, forgetting for a moment that Tamil was blind. Katie slithered over and handed the flashlight to Abraham, who then handed it out to Tori. If you keep that on and hold it that way, I have something to spot you with if I lose sight of you. Not bad idea. You're pretty sharp for a human, Tori smirked. Abraham grimaced at this and crossed his arms in disgust. Tori quickly squeaked and blushed. No offense. No, I'm offended. Not all humans are dumb primates. Please don't talk to me like that again. Tori nodded a bit in embarrassment and frowned. Right. Sure, follow me. Tori extended her wings and took to the sky, darting off towards the east. Abraham fired at the bus and followed, mentally wondering if this was really worth it. It was clear that Mato had a serious prejudice against humans, not unlike Michelle and Katie had back before he first met them. But he felt so much animosity for Mato that it made him literally afraid of him. Tori seemed a bit nicer, but she too showed that same sense of superiority to humans, and thus he was feeling like even more of an outcast around them. Abraham, you okay? Michelle asked. We don't have to do this, you know. No, I want to do it. It's fine. Let's go or we'll lose her. Following Tori turned out to be not so difficult, mostly because she enjoyed showing off. Every mile or so, she'd slow down and do a few flips and spins in the air, even doing a fierce dive for the bus and then veering up at the last minute. Asher was not shy about snarling each time she did that. What is this, a circus performance? He growled. I think it's cool, Sarah giggled. I wish I could fly like that. I think that's the whole reason she's showing off, Sarah, Michelle grumbled, because she knows that we can't. Yes, humility isn't really a thing, is it? Katie snickered. But despite this, the group continued to follow until at last they came to a very dark and very empty-looking town. There was a huge garage building that said Barron's Tire Distributors. Is that a tire warehouse? Abraham asked. Well, that makes sense, Michelle noted. It's large enough to hold a lot of people and run down enough that most people who don't have business there won't be coming knocking. Looks like this place hasn't been used in a while. Abraham pulled up to the warehouse and parked near one of the 5 garage door entrances. Tori landed next to the bus and ran up to meet them.
Welcome to our humble abode. Did y'all enjoy the show?
What show? Tamil asked.
The spectacular demonstration I put on, of course,
Tori said proudly.
Sorry, must have missed it, Tamil smirked.
Tori looked positively bewildered.
But I was... Tori, Tamil is blind,
Calypso giggled, patting Tamil's shoulder.
He's teasing you.
Tori blushed and shoved Tamil.
Well, you're a jerk. You really had me going there, she laughed. But you guys enjoyed it, right?
Tori looked at the others and they all politely nodded as she gave a bow. I thought it was cool, Abraham admitted. Tori smiled at him and spread her wings and arms for him.
Thank you. Always nice to have an audience.
Tori, stop showboating and bring the guests inside out already. Everyone turned to see Mato standing by one of the garage entrances. I swear you do this every time you put on a performance.
Oh, but you and Naomi have seen all my tricks before. You guys never even pay attention. You're no fun.
After the 10th time, it gets a bit old bird brain, Mato growled. He sounded deep, unheartfelt. Abraham almost forgot for a minute that this was the same person who tried to kill him not long ago. He'd been so hateful and rude. Was this that same person? He then turned to Asher and the others. Naomi's inside cooking. You can come in and see her now if you want. Everyone hurried inside to get out of the cold air and get closer to a fire. As Abraham made his way to the door, Mato suddenly held out his hand and gave him a venomous look.
What? Abraham asked.
Listen, human. My name's Abraham. Mato ignored him. I don't trust you, and I don't know you. I'm only letting you stay here because Tori's too naive to realize how dangerous humans are. You pull anything to hurt her or Naomi, I will tear you apart. I don't care what that werewolf or vampire says. You're a human. Humans can't be trusted.
Then I'll make it my personal mission to prove you wrong.
Macho gave a laugh and walked inside. We'll see. Abraham walked in to see everyone gathering around as another person was in the far corner, near a sink with a giant pot of some kind. She had a dreidel and was stirring the contents of the pot. Her skin was a dark navy blue. Her hair was short and black. She was humming to herself, but then paused as she heard the chatter behind her. Well, come on in and make yourselves at home. Mato told me we'd be getting some guests. Well, we don't have much, but we do have stew and space, so you can stay for a bit if you need to. Thanks for the hospitality, Michelle said. It's the least I can do, the woman chuckled. She still had not turned around to look at them, but was instead focusing on the stew. And I heard from Mato that you're a band of misfit monsters, too. Well, I guess we can relate in that regard, although I hear quite a lot of you. How many am I serving tonight? She turned around to look at them at last. Her deep, dark eyes were like the depths of the ocean. They were so strange and mysterious, and she wore a mischievous grin on her face that made Abraham feel wary. She also had fins for ears, hiding behind her hair that looked very familiar. She scanned them all with her eyes, but then her face went from amused to shock. She squealed and stumbled backwards, placing a hand over her heart. Calypso, is that you? And that was chapter 32. Before we go any further, I will share with you guys what this small group looks like, because Hannah did do me the very nice pleasure of drawing them. So this is the three of them. I'll zoom in a little bit. All right, so this is Naomi. She is a shark mermaid. That was Hannah's design, if I recall correctly. This is Tori. She is a harpy. What's funny is harpies are supposed to have wings for arms, but Hannah just drew her with normal arms too, so we thought that'd be funny. And then this is Mato, the skinwalker. And yeah, and I know you hate your old art. I know you hate it. But these are the only art pieces we have of these characters. No, neither of these three made it into the game. Neither of these three made it into the game. All right, we can take that down. And of course, this image is the image from the video game of the Monster Club crew. And I think we have time to let me check chapter 33 real quick. Oh yeah, chapter 33 is Calypso's memory. That was written September 30th, 2015. Let me see how long it is, see if we can get through it. Yeah, we can get through this. We'll read this and then we'll call it a night. Okay. Chapter 33, Calypso's memory. And no, there is no comic of this. But for the fun of it, I will do this. I will do this 1 second. One second. Because it is Calypso's memory. Oh, bugger off. There we go. I'll put Calypso's game sprite image up. That way you can all get a good look at her. All right. Let us read chapter 33 post haste. All right. Calypso's memory. What do you suppose it is, father? Son, it's obvious what this is. It's the creature from Sailor's Tales, a mermaid. I stirred from my slumber. I did not remember falling asleep, but I had somehow passed out. When, how, and what had happened, I racked my brain to try to remember. All I could remember was swimming towards the lagoon, and then there was a shadow in the water. A loud humming sound, and then there was a sharp pain, a cutting, ripping pain on my head and back. I tried to open my eyes and look around me. Father, I think she's waking up. Don't touch her, son. Let her come to her senses. I heard those voices again. I looked up to see two figures above me, one small and the other large. They both stank of dead fish. As my vision cleared, one looked very old, with a thick beard and a wetsuit on. The other was younger, maybe about 20 or 22. Yet the age difference was clear. I felt the ground beneath me. I was on a wooden ship. I'd been pulled from the water. I tried to crawl away, but felt a horrid headache strike me. Hey, don't try to move, the boy said. You got hit by the bow of our ship and then got caught in the fishing net. Fishing net? These two were fishers? Son, go get some fresh bandages. Her head wound is opening again, the old man said. The boy hesitantly did as he was told, and I was left alone with the older man. Don't worry. I will not hurt you. I want to help. My name is Brandon Spearman. My son, who just ran off, is named Heath. Do you have a name? I did not answer at first, but this man was smiling in concern, not in a dangerous desire. I felt comforted. This man had let me onto his boat and attended to my wounds despite me being a creature of the sea. Calypso. My name is Calypso. A lovely name. Is your school nearby? The two of us stared for a while, and I felt my heart picking up. How did he know that mermaids traveled in schools? He was right. I'd been separated a few days ago due to a storm and was far behind them. Naomi, our school leader, had been very strict about keeping everyone together.
But I was sure we were all separate and far and wide by now. I got separated, I whispered back, not sure I wanted to say everything.
Well, I can't let you go back into the ocean until that wound heals right up. All that blood could attract sharks.
As he spoke, his son Heath returned with the fresh bandages. He handed them to Brandon, and the old man removed a set of old and bloody bandages from his hand and began to wrap them around my head again, tenderly and carefully.
That should hold for a while. I want to get that looked at, though, when we get back to shore.
Father, can I speak with you in a private for a moment?
Heath asked. Brandon nodded. Wait here, Calypso. I'll be right back.
I watched him walk away, and as soon as the two were below deck, my first instinct was to leap into the ocean. I had to find my school. I had to escape these humans. Naomi had always said to avoid and fear humans. Humans will betray you. From the time of their inception, humans have always feared and hated that which they find unnatural or different. If it has intelligence and not human, they will seek to destroy it. They are our enemy, Calypso, she had said. And until now, I believed that. Even deep in my soul, I knew that these words rang with truth, but Brandon had not he'd taken me aboard his vessel. He'd healed my wounds, and he'd understood little about our kind. Could he be so bad?
Absolutely not!
I squealed at the shout and practically leapt into the air despite my legs still in the form of a tail. The voice was Brandon's, and he sounded angry.
But, Father, this is a mermaid, a rare creature. It is for that reason alone that what you suggest is out of the question, Brandon snapped back. We're taking her back home to treat her injuries, and that is the end of the discussion, Heath. Son, I am not arguing this point. Turn the ship to the east and take us home.
Heath marched off, and Brandon returned. He knelt down again and smiled.
I'm sorry about that, Calypso.
He investigated the rest of me.
I don't see any serious injuries. You are very lucky.
How long have I been on the ship?
When you hit the bow, you fell unconscious and got caught up in our fishing net. We pulled you aboard and kept an eye on you. It's been about 2 or 3 hours.
I gasped and scrambled towards the edge of the ship. Oh, no. My school's probably already so far ahead of me. Naomi will be scared. I have to get back.
You can't go, Brandon cried, grabbing my shoulder. If you go in that water, your wounds will reopen, attracting sharks. Let me treat you first, then I will be happy to let you go.
You don't understand. If I'm missing, Naomi will be really, really upset. She worries about all of us.
I presume Naomi must be the head of your school. Well, if she is, then she'd care more about your health than your attendance.
His words were patient and wise. After a moment, I sat back down on the deck and allowed him to steer us towards his home, though I kept looking out towards the water, partially wanting to jump back into it. When we finally arrived at his home, he helped me out of the boat. My fins turned to legs because of how dry I was and waddled and stumbled across the dock, not used to them. I entered his home and Heath let me go to the kitchen while Brandon stayed to look at my forehead cut. He pulled out a needle and thread and began to sew up the gash. I winced as he worked on me, but I did appreciate the concern, and after a while he stepped back.
Let's leave those stitches in there a few days. Make sure that heals just right.
Thank you, but I do need to leave now.
I don't think that's a good idea, my dear, Brandon said sympathetically. You don't want to get those stitches wet. They'll unravel. Until they're removed, you can't get your head under water.
But my friends, my school.
We'll just have to wait a little longer. I'm sorry, but head wounds bleed very badly, and I'm still a little worried you could have a concussion. Just give it 3 days. I'll remove the stitches, and you'll be free to go.
I sat in defeat and nodded. 3 days, but I don't want to be a burden. You've done so much for me already.
It's nothing, really. I used to be a paramedic, in the Navy. Brandon chuckled, but that was many years ago. Now I'm old, and I spend my days fishing.
Why give up life as a medicine man? Do you not like it?
Oh, no, it wasn't about liking or disliking it, Brandon answered, fiddling with his beard a little. I retired because it's embarrassing. I was diagnosed with PTSD. That's post-traumatic stress disorder. And they wouldn't let an old fart like me in a doctor's office anyway unless I wanted to get a checkup. So I became a paramedic so I could learn to save lives rather than just end them. And that's what I did for you today. So, the way I see it, I'm still fulfilling my duties.
I felt my heart skip a beat at that prospect. saving lives, making a difference. Could I maybe do that too? Could I do for Naomi in the school what Brandon does? Would you show me a little of what you know? I asked.
I can't teach you everything in 3 days, Calypso. But I can show you a little something if you're really interested.
I blushed a little, shy and afraid of the very idea of asking to learn. Perhaps I was afraid of learning something new from a human. But my curiosity outweighed my fear. I would love to learn. 3 days passed sooner than I thought, and in the time I'd spent with Brandon, I learned so much about medicine and first aid. Brandon was a wonderful teacher. He allowed me to use his bed to rest on, and he treated me like I was one of his own. Heath, though, was much more wary. He kept to himself most of the time. However, I often felt his eyes on me, as if he was waiting for or watching for something. His eyes unnerved me, and there was some nights I would hear Brandon and Heath arguing, and I was sure it was about me. Brandon never brought it up, though, and he always seemed so happy. On the 3rd day, Brandon sat me down on his bed and began removing the stitches from my head.
Looks like your wound has healed very nicely and barely any scar at all. That's excellent.
Thank you, Brandon, I laughed. And thank you for teaching me about medicine. I can't wait to share what I know with my school when I find them.
Brandon nodded,
when suddenly he perked up and looked out the window behind me. As he did, his eyes narrowed. I turned as well, but couldn't see from where I was sitting. Brandon stood up and walked to the window and glanced outside.
Oh, Heath, you foolish boy.
Brandon? Brandon turned and grabbed my hand forcefully and yanked me up.
Ow! Sorry, there's no time to explain. My son has done something very foolish.
What's he done? I asked. But even as I asked, I could hear odd sounds. Car doors slamming shut, and men talking. There was the sound of a truck roaring to life.
My son's grades couldn't get him scholarships, and over the last few days he figured turning you over to a zoo or to scientists might make him some money to get into college. I tried to stop him, but
He what?
You must get to the ocean. Once you're in the open sea, you can find your school. Just run! Run!
He shouted, pushing me towards the door and towards the rock. I stumbled and turned to look back. But Brandon, There was a knock at the door, and I could see a few men standing by the truck. It was a large white thing with a great tank of water in the back.
There's no time, Calypso. Go! He shouted.
But why?
Because I want to save lives, not destroy them. Now get out of here!
Thank you, Brandon, I shouted, running and literally stumbling into the ocean. The moment my body hit the water, my legs turned to fins, and I shot like a torpedo through the open sea, crying salty tears into a salty surf, feeling my heart rip in 2 directions, one half taking me to the endless sea, while the other stayed behind in that blessed little fishing house with Brandon, the man who saved my life twice.
And that was chapter 33. All right.
Well, that's probably going to be where we call it for tonight. I really hope you guys enjoyed that. Had a great time. This is one of my favorite stories. It's very long. It's not my best written, obviously. I mean, like I said, this is 2013 when I started, and this chapter was written in 2015, so it's over 10 years old. It's a very old book, so it's obviously not my best work. But anyway, thank you all so much for watching. My throat is very sore now. I need to stop talking immediately. Yeah, thank you so much for watching, guys. Looking forward to coming back next Monday and doing more of this. It's going to be great. And as always, I will see you in my next video. Take care, guys.